The following is a presentation of unidentified entertainment and 22nd century radio. Manassas, Fairfax, Washington, D.C.
All right, welcome back to the show. It is the Time and Space radio show. We are still on. And you can reach us. You can contact us by Twitter, via Twitter, at Time and Space US. You can email us, 22nd22nd at cox.net. If you would like to do so, please do. Please support us. So I talked about Stephen Hawking. You know, in the first episode of our sort of return effort here, we declared that this is not some kind of political show, and it's not. It does originate from the United States, right outside of Washington, D.C. We've talked about this a number of times. It's hard not to speak about governments or military without sounding political to somebody somewhere anyway. It's kind of hard to get away with that, but I'm trying to stick to specific stories and not chase the politics of some of these issues. The headline I pointed out in the last segment about the UK boycott of the World Cup, you know, yeah, that's a political story. Yeah, that's true. I do think it was relevant enough to what we're doing and talking about here on the show that it was worth pointing out. And I could have gone into a bunch of stuff about, you know, the politics of that entire thing, but you can read it for yourself and make your own decisions. Either way, we're going to try to stick to stories and not chase the politics of these issues. That's just how this radio show is intended to work. So bearing that in mind, and bearing in mind the description of a planetless civilization of nomads roaming the galaxy, prepared to colonize any worlds they might find, this, of course, provided to us by Stephen Hawking in our prior segment. Let's return to Earth space programs and some news from the past week. This from Newsweek. Brendan Cole, again March 15th. Big news day, turned out. Headline, Russia will beat NASA to Mars and find water on the moon, says Putin. Russia will launch a mission to Mars in 2019, that's next year, which, if successful, would beat NASA's planned exploration of the Red Planet by a year. Vladimir Putin revealed his country's space plans during a documentary about the president, which was widely shared on social media. Again, this is a Newsweek article. There's a couple of interesting typos or whatever in here. Bear with me, because I remember reading through this a couple times, and it was sort of strange where some of the information may have originated from. Back to the article. He said, that's Putin. Putin said, quote, "We are planning unmanned and later manned launches into deep space as part of a lunar program and for Mars exploration. The closest mission is very soon. We are planning to launch a mission to Mars in 2019. The revelation during a documentary on the president hosted by Andrei Kondrashov comes on the heels of NASA's announcement it would attempt to explore the Red Planet in a Mars 2020 mission in which it would investigate the potential for life. Putin, who is expected to be re-elected as president in the country's election on Sunday, that's actually today when I'm recording this, said that Russia would also launch a mission to the polar regions of the moon, adding that its lunar program would differ from the one his country undertook in Soviet times. Quoting Putin again, I think, quote, "Our specialists will try to make landings on the poles because there is reason to believe that there can be water there. There is progress to be made. Studies of other planets, distant space can be started from there," he said in the film uploaded to Russian social media site Contact. Putin did not specify when in 2019 the Mars mission would happen. The NASA mission is expected to take place around July and August 2020, when the positions between Earth and Mars are best placed for a landing. The article goes on, again, this is from Newsweek just a couple of days ago. The race to the red planet is hotting up, with billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk telling the South by Southwest conference on Sunday, that must have been last Sunday, that his SpaceX Mars rocket may be ready for test flights next year. He'd previously stated his ambition was to launch cargo flights by 2022. So far, Russia's attempts at a Mars mission have ended in failure. In 2011, the ill-fated Phobos Grunt probe was unable to be fired toward the orbit of the red planet after launch. Its mission was designed to bring back samples from the planet's moon, Phobos. The Russian space program Roscosmos worked with the European Space Agency in the Schiaparelli EDM lander mission, in which a Russian rocket was used. So, interesting announcement, kind of out of the blue, from the Russians this past week. That's Putin right out front, talking about his very ambitious plans to get to Mars, as well as to find water on the moon. And in context on this show, we've covered so much of this material already. I think we can understand some additional motivations that might, be taken into consideration as far as that issue goes. And keeping it in context with what the Chinese are up to, the Chinese and the Russians together, you have to think that there's probably some level of cooperation there. And it's interesting to consider, what could be up. And in taking that into consideration, and I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick break before we get into a little bit more of this material. We seem to have, maybe a day or so earlier, I mean, the article I'm looking at is 13 March, so this is a day or two prior, President Trump had some remarks of his own. We'll cover those when we get back in the next segment. Thanks for listening. It's the Time and Space Radio Show.
"22nd Century Radio"